Zach, what are your thoughts on the College Football Hall of Fame requirements for head coaches being lowered? The standard is lowered from a 600 winning percentage to a 595 winning percentage, just so Mike Leach can be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame.
This is what we're talking about?
That's what we're going to lead with. Yeah, that's what we're going to go with.
Let's talk about Tahaad Pettiford coming back. How about that?
Okay, that's fine. I mean, people have talked about it. It's kind of, it's big.
I haven't been able to talk about it yet. I'd like to talk about it.
Oh, you haven't talked about? Okay, I assumed you'd talked about it in a whole bunch of places.
I haven't. I was waiting to talk about it with you.
Okay, that's a good point. Yesterday, when I heard you on the radio, you had not. I guess the news hadn't been public yet. So, okay.
No, how about the worst kept secret in the world? But yeah, it happened. So, Tahaad coming back obviously gives Auburn a much higher ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it puts them in a situation to compete, to stay atop the SEC, which is all you can ask for at this point.
Yeah, tremendous. The point guard, the leader of your team, and now it's his team. He's not coming off the bench. He's the guy who's getting the bulk of your minutes at point guard. And it was pretty telling to me when you read some of the comments of other players that they recognize what kind of versatility this team can have. And the guy they signed from Serbia, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name yet. I'm going to try to learn what it is officially and then go there. But man, the versatility. People ask, so you can play the 3 or the 4? Yes is the answer. What about Keyshawn? Is he going to play what position? Yeah, like this is a team that I think is built unlike any of Bruce's other teams at Auburn. It's not going to follow the formula that we've seen from some of the others.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I agree with that. As far as positional versatility, I mean, we saw this a lot with last year's team for sure, but I do think the emphasis was still around the basket. Now it's going to be on the perimeter, and so it is going to be, I mean, it's almost built similarly to the first Final Four team, which is fun now that we have to differentiate the Final Four teams that we're talking about because we have multiple Final Four teams in our storied history, which is awesome.
Only team in the SEC with multiple Final Four trips in the last decade. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
True.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Honestly, I can't imagine not going to the Final Four multiple times in the last 10 years. I can't imagine that.
Look, for a long time, we knew what it was like not to go to multiple Final Fours in a decade. Not anymore.
I've forgotten what that feels like.
Me too.
And I don't ever want to remember.
No.
But this team does seem similar to the first one as far as, how lethal we think they can be from deep. But this team is way more athletic. I'm not saying better. I'm not saying they're going to get hot at the right time or anything like that. But just on paper, they are significantly more athletic. They're bigger and longer, more physical, and much more versatile than that first one. So I do think that's the easiest one to compare this roster to, but they're still very different.
Yeah. I think this is the most NBA roster, the roster that most resembles an NBA construct.
Okay.
With the length and athleticism, the ability to win one-on-one matchups, 1 through 5 on the floor, on both ends of the floor, too.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, positional versatility, a lot of that, our brains think offensively, but it's who you can defend. You've got to be you got to be able to defend on the other side of the floor, or it's worthless. And I think a lot of these guys are going to be able to defend, whether it's 1 through 3, 2 through 4, 3 through 5. I mean, there's going to be a lot of defensive versatility too. And so, with Tahaad and then Jovic is my first attempt at it. I've heard Jovic and Jovic, so we'll see which one it is. But obviously, I think he adds depth, and then Tahaad adds the star power. And Tahaad has that, despite not playing a ton last year, as far as I was watching. I came across a guy on TikTok last night who he reacts to players that are in the comment section or whatever, and so a lot of people were commenting Tahaad Pettiford. So he did a Tahaad video, and he was just blown away by Tahaad's highlights or whatever, and he's looking at his stats. He's like, how is he only averaging this? And so, a lot of people didn't really know as much of Tahaad as they probably should have, because he was willing to play a role and play a role for a team that won championships this past year. So I'm excited to see what Tahaad does as being the guy, not just a guy. And he may I don't know, the ceiling may be higher than what we even think it is.
22 minutes a game from Tahaad Pettiford last year.
Yeah, we're talking about a guy who was, a fringe first-round pick if he had stayed in the draft. And, to only play 22 minutes. I mean, think about all the production and all the moments that he had, and give him 8 to 10 more minutes a night. It's like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Do we see 8 more minutes a night? Do we see 30? I know. I understand what it is on the calendar and how far away we are, 6 months away from the season.
Yeah.
But you think he plays 30 minutes a game? Janai is the only guy that played 30 last year.
Well, I think, one, I think you're going to need him too. And two, just from a roster construction standpoint, I mean, some of this might depend on Magwood, right? He's the presumed backup at the 1. So, if he, I think he does. I think he plays 30 minutes a game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The only other sort of negative feedback that I've heard or question about Tahaad in the next year, and I don't think it holds any water at all, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Is, well, he's playing with a whole new team. Right, like he was last year. He was a true freshman. He had never played with those guys before. So I get they're all playing together for the first time, but in terms of Tahaad running the show from the point guard position, he had never played with any of these guys before last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it matters. I don't think it's a concern.
Yeah.
But it will have some level of impact. I mean, if there are more guys returning, that's always a good thing. Chemistry, especially when you look at what last year's team was able to do. Those guys have been playing, the core of those guys have been playing together for, at least multiple years. But
sure. Specifically, though, for Tahaad playing with them, that was the first time he had played with any of those guys.
Yeah, they're going to practice before they go play a game.
Yeah.
They'll have a few practices.
Yeah. Pretty good bit. So there you go. That is clearly the headline. Tahaad Pettiford announces that he is returning, and a lot of conversations, like I saw our friends at the next round talking about him as the potential player of the year in the SEC.
Sure.
Going into next season. And I think that's a fair conversation to have. So,
player of the year in the conference?
SEC. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not pushing back on that at all.
Okay. So
I also think some of the arguments that we ran into with Janai, I think if a point guard is the face of Auburn's program, I do think they'll get more credit.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Because I think it's easier to digest.
Yeah, that's fair.
Whether that's right or not, I don't think it is, but I do think that's a reality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a quarterback with the Heisman. Like, it just makes more sense. People more comfortable with it. When you start talking about receivers or defensive players, I think it's the same way with post guys. Just my thoughts on it.
That's fair. I think that's fair. All right. Today's show is brought to you by mybookie.ag. You get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000 when you use promo code BARN at mybookie.ag. In addition to that, they'll give you a $10 casino chip, all when you use promo code BARN at mybookie.ag.
Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Roback. Roback.com, RHOBACK.com. Use promo code VICE20 to get 20% off your order. When you head to Roback.com, you'll see an incredible catalog filled with any kind of pattern that you could imagine. You can put them on hoodies. You're the most comfortable and stylish collared shirts. And then, of course, quarter zips as well. They've got more. Those are the 3 things that I have from Roback, and I endorse every single bit of it. Roback.com. Use promo code VICE20 to get 20% off your order.
There are 2 other things that I want to, I guess 3 other things that I want to talk about today. Okay. Really quickly, kickoff times. Now we have them. And I think it's the ideal setup for the first 3 games of the year.
Please tell me.
I think it's ideal. First, I mean, now look, we can't do anything about the fact the Baylor game is on a Friday night. That part is not ideal. But like that, I take that out of the conversation. There's nothing we can do about that. That's not they weren't going to start a game on a Friday at 4:00 in the afternoon.
No,
So
your options were 6, 7, or 8, right?
Right. Like that's not who cares?
Whatever. Yeah.
Whatever.
I would pick 7 just for selfish purposes.
Sure.
I'd pick 7. That's what we got.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Now, first home game of the year is a night game.
Oh,
terrific. 6:30 start against Ball State.
Which just real quick.
Yeah.
Ball is not a state.
No, Ball is life, but it's not a state.
Correct.
The Fighting David Letterman's coming in at 6:30 at night. That's great. And then, back-to-back home games against non-conference teams. You're not going to be as fired up as against a conference team. It's still early in the year. 11:45 is great for South Alabama. You got 2 road games coming up in conference play. Take care of business. Get home. Get your feet up. Let's move on with the day for week 3. That's kind of what I think the typical fan reaction is to those first 2 home game times of the year. Love a night game for the opener, and then for the very next week, let's take care of business and get on.
If Auburn beats Baylor and Waco and they come home, night game against Ball State. Ball is not a state. But that place will be crazy.
Yeah.
And Auburn's going to be in it for a lot of recruiting battles, and having those recruits on campus in that environment, coming off of a win, hopefully.
Yep.
If it's a loss, we're coming off of a loss, it's a totally different conversation. But I think you'll be able to feel forward momentum in that building from a program standpoint for the first time in a few years. Yeah. And I think that'll mean a lot to the team, to the fans, to the recruits, to everybody involved. So I agree. Yeah. I agree with that. With the USA 11:45, whatever. That game could be at any point. I'm not going to feel one way about it or the other.
Yeah, right. Listen, the game time doesn't have anything to do with winning or losing against Ball State and South Alabama. I don't think you need the crowd to help you against either. That's not the conversation. What I'm talking about is we haven't been inside Jordan-Hare Stadium for a home game in 9 to 10 months, or 10 months at the time. So, boy, we love night games, and it's always good to get one early in the year. So
look, if Brad Law's happy, that's all I really care about.
There you go. I think it's an ideal situation for those first 3.
I think you're an ideal situation.
Well, thanks.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. I do want to talk College Football Hall of Fame lowering the standard before we talk Auburn baseball to wrap it up.
I don't know about this. So
okay, they've lowered their minimum winning percentage to qualify for the Hall of Fame from a 600 to a 595. Now they didn't say explicitly it's for Mike Leach, but it does now allow him to qualify.
So just shooting off the hip, I didn't know any of this. I think having requirements in general is dumb. Don't you vote? You vote anyway, right?
Yes. Right.
So I don't think you should move it. I think you should just take it away.
Yeah.
I mean, how many situations are there that the winning percentage is going to be lower than that you're not going to vote them in anyway?
Well, here are a couple of well-known. Well, I say they're well-known. There's 2, and they both have Iowa connections. Currently, Kirk Ferentz. Would you consider him a Hall of Fame coach?
I don't think so.
No. You've been there 29 years.
So when I think of college, games. Like when I think of Hall of Fame for anything, and off-season Mount Rushmore conversations and for a specific niche or whatever, can you tell the story of college football without blank? I don't think you can tell the full story of college football without Mike Leach. So I agree with that. I think you can tell the story of college football without Ferentz.
Okay. All right. Which is interesting because you're going to go back to the old days of coaching and find some names that we still talk about today with winning percentages, I think, lower than 600.
And so that goes back to like my criteria. If I was a voter for this, I would ask myself, can I tell the story of college football without blank? Because I mean, we've both been in there for media days and stuff. Like it's a story. The way it's constructed, whether you go to the NFL Hall of Fame in Ohio and Canton, or if you go to the college football one in Atlanta, the way it's all laid out is it's a story. They're telling you a story. So if you go back to the olden days of college football, and there's still people that we're talking about, and they don't have was it 600 or now 590 winning percentage? Like,
595.
yeah, they probably should be in there.
Okay. See, I find that interesting. Like Hayden Fry at Iowa, and now Kirk Ferentz. Iowa's had two. How about this for a story? Iowa has had 2 head coaches since 1979.
Which is so Iowa. It's so Iowa. It hurts.
Slow, plodding, methodical.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not in a hurry to move on to the next thing whatsoever. I think it's noteworthy, though, that a Big Ten program has had 2 head coaches in the last 46 years.
I'm not asking this to be snarky. I'm not asking this to be snarky. How many conference championships do they have in the last 46 years?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't either. Let's look.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But Hayden Fry has a 564. Kirk Ferentz has a 598. Now, the next time they go 8-4, like Ferentz is probably going to be a little close. I guess my question is, why did we have to lower the standard? I hate the idea of lowering the standard for anything. Why not just make an exception? Why not say that, the trajectory of Mike Leach's career over the last 10 years was such that he had enough to qualify? Or here's an idea, to your point, just vote.
Yeah, I don't understand why that's is that a thing in other Hall of Fame? Like, you have to have certain stats to be considered. That's interesting. Iowa football has since 80, they've got 81, 85, 90, 2002, 2004. So take that for what it's worth, which is more than I was expecting, if I'm being honest with you. So good for Iowa. Yeah, no, I think we're in agreement there. But like, I just don't understand why.
Like, I'm looking at the NFL Hall of Fame. NFL Hall of Fame, the only stipulation is you got to be retired 5 years. That's
what it should be. That's great. I'm all for that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Just some thought. That was my knee-jerk reaction to, why are we lowering the standards? Why? I don't understand.
Yeah. Or just, I don't even know if you're like, I mean, I guess by definition, you're lowering the standard because you set standards in place, but why are those standards in place to begin with? That's silly.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. They ought to put us on them committees. We do a fine job.
Get somebody in there in the room who's going to ask why. Let's get over this groupthink stuff.
Last question for the day. How hyped are you for Auburn baseball this weekend?
Dude, I'm stoked.
Yeah,
I'm stoked. I got a few minutes into watching y'all's barn baseball show. Had to pause it. My wife came home. But yeah, no, I'm stoked for it. This regional feels more like the one that we went to with Sonny's team.
Yeah.
Not the one 2 years ago. Lindsey Crosby totally called like, hey, we're going to have trouble against Penn going to the last one. And I mean, no disrespect to any of the teams in this regional, like you got to beat them, but you can't ask for a better draw than what we got.
Butch Thompson did his press conference earlier today, and one of the last questions was about 2 years ago. And you could see the frustration on the man's face to have to think back to 2 years ago.
Sure.
In fact, he started his answer with, yeah, we're asked about 2 years ago a lot. And he then quickly reminded everybody that the 3 regionals before 2 years ago, they didn't lose a game. They went 9-0.
Really?
They went 9-0.
That's awesome.
In 17, in what I guess 18, 19, and 18, 19, and 22. 9-0. So,
where did we go for the supers in 18 and 19?
19 super was in Chapel Hill, and Auburn scored 13 runs in the first.
That's when they had to take the bus there.
Yes.
That's
the
right.
18 super was in Gainesville, and game 3 of
Chapel Hill one. I'm having a hard time remembering that one.
Oh yeah, Stephen Williams had the ball go off of him and over the wall, and it was game 3 of that super regional in 2018 is one of the most edge of your seat. just, hyperventilating type of games that I've ever watched.
Got it.
Heartbreaking.
Got it.
So that was it. But that was the supers. In the regionals, didn't lose a game.
Got it.
So what recent history do you choose to lean on more?
Yeah.
3 years in a row where you didn't lose a game, or 2 years ago where you went 0-2. And kind of his point was none of those matter. Nobody was on. Very few guys were on this team 2 years ago.
Sure.
So I'm pretty like watching him in the press conference today. If the team takes on that mentality, yeah,
which they will.
Yeah,
they will. I mean, this team is Butch Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And I think that's one of the million reasons why he's such a great coach. And he's one of my favorite. He probably is my favorite coach I've ever covered. Like, I think he does such a good job of his guys being him on the field. We talked about this a little bit after the Auburn and Tennessee series, where it's like, man, are both these squads just, they're coaches, on the field. And for Auburn, like that's exactly what you want in your athletes.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So I think it's going to be a good weekend. And
what do we know about these guys? So they'll take on. Which Connecticut is it? What is it? Central Connecticut State.
Central Connecticut.
Or it's just Central Connecticut, not state.
Central Connecticut State.
Okay. Which Connecticut is a state.
Correct.
And Central Connecticut is part of a state.
Right. They're in the central part of Connecticut, the state.
I'd say they're towards the middle of the state, if I had to guess.
You had to guess. They have a guy who hit 458 for the year. And hit.
They won their conference, I'm assuming. Are they an automatic bid?
Yeah, they won their conference. It's the Northeast Conference.
Which, once again, Northeast makes sense.
Sure, because Connecticut
makes sense that Central Connecticut is in the Northeast Conference. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, look, yeah.
But Ball is not a state.
No.
It's just not.
Never has been.
It's just not.
Right.
So like you look at, the odds for Auburn. It's one of the more lopsided lines you'll see in the postseason of Auburn minus 850 to beat Central Connecticut.
Yeah.
State. So take that for what it's worth.
Yep. And we know Cam Tilley's going to start the opener against Central Connecticut State.
Your thoughts on starting Cam Tilley?
I think his stuff is undeniable. I think if he can get into a good rhythm early and not fall into gaps where, a walk turns into 2 walks or a walk and a hit batter and then a poorly played, like, can you stay out of a 3-run inning?
Is the full order announced or just Tilley?
Just Tilley. Because I think, which tells me that some of it is do you win the first game or lose the first game? It's a contingency. It's not like a regular weekend where 3 games, 3 start times.
If you're in an elimination standpoint, like who do you want? Do you want Dutton?
Right.
So do you have Chatterton? I don't know. I think
they're
all fine options, but I do wonder what the plan is there.
Where do we see Cade Fisher this weekend? Where do we see Carson? Do you see Carson Myers early in a weekend so that you could maybe bring him back if you have to?
Sure.
Sunday or Monday if necessary, but you can't. But you can't approach a first game like you're going to play 5 or like you're going to play 3. You have to approach the first game like
you have to win the first game.
Yes.
After that, you got some wiggle room if you drop one.
Yeah. Then you start. Well, at least then you start planning for your second game.
That's right.
Yeah. So
that's right. No, dropping your first one. I mean, you're just in a hole. Like, it's so hard to climb out of. You saw Auburn softball almost do it.
Yep.
In their regional, but it's just you got to play extra games at that point, and that's just brutal. Brutal.
Just need to rain to cooperate. We're gonna have a fun time this weekend. The epitome of brutality.
Yeah. All right, we good?
We're good. That's it.
I've missed you this week.
I know. It's been good to get back together.
So I called you earlier in the week, and what happened?
I didn't see it or feel it or hear it come through.
You didn't answer.
I relied on
call back. So
I knew you were in the middle of stuff too.
It's fine. Oh, it's been a week. It's been a week. The amount of messages I got, like, why aren't you doing anything on Tahaad? I'm like, I have a life.
Yeah.
Like, I have to. This isn't a good week for Tahaad to be making decisions. I wish you would have asked me first.
Yeah. Sometimes life does not cooperate.
Like I got to take my children places.
Yeah.
It's been a tough one. Thanks for asking. It's been a tough one.
Yeah.
But it's almost over.
Sure.
The week is almost over.
The proverbial week or just the physical week?
I don't know if I fully understand what you're asking, but I'm going to say both.
Okay.
I'm going to say both.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah. Heading out of town this weekend. Boy, do I need it.
Okay.
Boy, do I need it, Brad.
Good.
Going to Chattanooga.
Chattanooga. Great place.
Live it up.
Fine place.
It's fine.
Good.
It's okay. That does it for today's show.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. Do Zach a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Help his week be even better.
The proverbial week or the physical week?
The proverbial week. The physical week's going to come to an end no matter what. So
that's true.
Let's hope the proverbial week is almost over.
I now understand the question. Thank you for helping me.
Hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it. Remember, until next time, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of them.